Hello and welcome to another episode of Friday Night Live. I almost said Soul Citizen, but no, we're on Friday Night Live, episode 13. That's the thing. It's episode 13, lucky 13, right, Kimmy? How are you doing this week?
I'll take it. I can handle it. Pretty good, fastcart. Good seeing you, man. Hardest working man on the internet right here. I'm with tonight.
No, that's Griffin. Griffin is the hardest working man on the internet. And he's not here with us, but he's here in spirit,
Oh
I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. And the waves and the radio waves.
How's your week been?
It's been busy, man. I mean, it's been really busy, but I guess busy is a good thing, right? And I kind of I can easily segue that over to Sig themselves. They've been secretly, quietly busy with all the things that they're doing right now, and it's been a lot. I mean, almost too much information, right?
Almost, not quite. Not as much as it was, what, a month ago during when CitizenCon was supposed to happen, when they did that info dump and it had like 4 pages worth of stuff all at once.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
but
not
yeah,
quite to that level, but yeah, they're quietly, I would say, close, some close to that. They've been pretty good. I mean, Jared, he's been pumping out, producing a lot this week, and it's been really good content, and I've been enjoying it, man, all this week.
oh, thank you for everyone who stopped by for Water World last week. It was an interesting special presentation. Griffin did most of the work for that. Thank him for that as well. We raised $1,800 as far as last I heard for award for St. Jude Children's Hospital. Did you have fun doing that, Kimmy?
I had a blast. I want to do it again, right? I'm thinking of ways how we can repeat that, especially with the we're in that what you would say the holiday seasons now, right? So
Right.
that would be really cool to do something else on that line and to have fun and to take care of the kids too, man. It's a win-win. It is definitely a win-win.
Yeah, I had fun too. I was doing mostly special effects. I still have the boom from the cannon in my mind.
Hold on to that. Hold on to that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm thinking of doing something myself. It won't be Hitchhiker's Guide, but I'll see what I can do. We'll see. I'll try. I try to take the load off of Griffin next time, so he doesn't have to do quite everything.
It's hard to
Very
pass
much.
up Ebenezer though. Hard to pass him
So
up.
you want to get into it?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
All right, let's go to the first video.
Intergalactic Aerospace Expo 2950. Whitley's Guide and me, Jax McCleary, are here to take you through it all. We're here on Microtech, going behind the scenes, under the hood, and deep undercover, to bring you the galaxy's hottest ships from its coolest locale. See if you can keep up.
When they were doing the under the hood part, I almost got motion sickness. So that was pure arm Blair with project right there. What'd you think of it?
Pretty neat. Pretty neat.
Looking forward to it. It's 14 days, right?
Yes. It's I think it's gonna be pretty good, man. I mean, in the sense that we're getting these layers of we were expecting CitizenCon, right? Way back when, when all this stuff happened, and we were expecting CitizenCon. We were making our plans, and we didn't. That didn't happen, and so we had a truncated version of what CitizenCon was with the drop of the Squadron 42 reveal and then ask me AMA, ask me anything. And then so I think this is a layered effect of the fact that we didn't get a CitizenCon. So expect something really cool with IAE coming up in 2 weeks, literally in 2 weeks, 14 days.
Are you expecting
November
something like
20th.
Are you expecting something like Invictus Week, like to roll out the Idris again, or do you think that's gonna be a once a year thing?
That's funny you say that, Fast Card. I think because now I wonder if we're going to get some other new ship in regards of what they did with Invictus, right? Because when I say this, it's because the 312, now we're going to get the Idris period. We're getting the Idris period. So as far as the next patch where Lawbreakers, the last leg of defense will be that Idris. We're going to start seeing the Idris now. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And plus, they're going to drop a new ship. So they're going to have a sale about that ship done.
Oh yeah.
So we'll definitely have that.
Yes, and speaking of new ships, Mercury Star Runner.
Yes, and before I forget, if you want to drop in, not chat, but drop on in, come on in. This is the interactive show, community talk show, and so
no wrong
drop on
answers.
in and come on in.
Just
give us your
I'm passion. That's all.
I'm expecting a new ship, and I don't think it'll be quite like Invictus Week, but hopefully they'll do something special. Because I really enjoyed Invictus Week. I really enjoyed seeing the big ships and the fireworks. I mean, when it worked, it was great. Plus, the community will always make something fun out of that.
Exactly. And you would expect they learn from the hiccups of here and there of the development stuff and the things they add in, and they get better. So we definitely need to expect that they're going to do something and make a splash and to make previous things better. That's what they do. But Nyla said, fastcart. Oh yeah, you just reacted to that in chat. Nyla said you're going Legatus.
No, I haven't put any new money into the game since April of last year. But whenever they do have another Citizen Con, I'll buy tickets, obviously. But I'm not expecting to put any more money into ships. So we'll see. Unless they come up with something amazing, or like have a brand new upgrade that I just have to get, or something like that. Yeah. I'm not expecting to put more money in there. But I still have some credit available, so I may not even have to do that.
Oh, how about you? There's the F8. Oh
yeah. How much do you think the F8 would cost if they brought out the sold the F8? They would go back and they say they're never going to sell it, but if they go back on the word and sell the F8, how much do you think the F8 would cost?
When you said that, I immediately thought 200.
Yeah, I buy that. Oh. Yeah, I would buy that. I would literally. That would be the one ship I would put more money into the game for. Yeah, for 200, I would do that. Maybe 250.
Yeah, and that's a reachable range right there, and remember it's a single seat fighter, so you expect the bells and whistles with that. I call it the Henry Cavill special.
I have to do this for Nala. 350? Are you crazy? 350?
Yeah, because I remember the Crucible was 350, and it had the capabilities of.
Yeah, but that was much bigger.
Yep. So yeah, 250. I would see it in that range. It's reachable for people, especially if it's a specific fighter. But yeah, you're right, fastcart. SIG did say, hey, this is exclusive to Squadron 42. You have the capability to acquiring that through the skill set. And that was the thing with Chris. he still echoes this, right, fastcart, about old school gaming. I love that about him, where he
talking about Dark Soul. I mean, if I only have one chance per mission, per playthrough to win the F8, I'm gonna be playing that game so many times. If there's no save point between, I mean, just before you can get it, or you have to make a certain goal, and I'll be playing that game so we should rerun that game so many times just to get the F8.
You and me both. Yeah, it's definitely worthwhile, and SIG is incentivizing it, unlike the other game companies where it's pay to win. Chris is all about play to win. So I love that about the game.
All right, so you want to go to the next part, inside Star Citizen?
Let's do it, man.
All right, let's check that out.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold up. Before we do, what do we have here? Holy smokes.
What?
Are we seeing what I'm thinking? We're seeing. Yeah.
Oh, Oh, what is this?
This came through the emails of the updates. This is definitely progress right
I
here.
messed myself
AI.
up on the newsletter. I
Yeah.
accidentally unsubscribed and I can't resubscribe to them. So I've been trying to resubscribe for 3 weeks and I still haven't been able to do it. Like every time it says save, it still says that I'm not subscribed.
And you make a point, because I kind of caught this out there on Discord or something, but didn't realize that it was sent to my email. So as I'm checking my email, I'm like, I first see it and it's like, hey man, how come I'm not up on this? What's going on? And then I look at my email and it dropped about November 4th. And so I'm looking, I say, I felt a little relief, right? That I wasn't left out. But yeah, it looks like some of the things, I think maybe Griff might have mentioned this about AI as something that they really need to work on. AI is the elephant in the room for SIG. As far as we talked about that Moon Collider and all those guys, and they need these AI engineers. Literally, it's a job opening for that position.
I'm not going to lie. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm listening.
I'm not gonna lie, this straight up reminds me of something like out of Doom or something like the old school Quake or something like that. Just because it's so early stage and whatnot. So yeah, I'm getting that feel from it.
Yeah, that in your face, up close, visceral. Yeah. I'm coming at you. Yeah, it does echo that. But but also the other part, when they did the live motion capture, I would expect them to do those leaps from long distances. Remember that when they were showing, Andy, what is his name? Oh my gosh, he has the mocap studio. He did, yes,
Andy Serkis.
And I said Andy Serkis. He and this other gentleman, they were doing the mocap studio, and they were. I would expect these vandals and groups attacking in different aspects.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, this one has armor, so he's not a veteran. So he's going to be more aggressive. But then you have the actual vandal who don't use spacesuits, who are like probably like your special forces or elite warriors. So this is just a little a taste of, okay, yeah, we dispatched these guys. It was a little challenging, but then we haven't met the tier 0 versions of the Vandal. So expect to get a real workout with that wrist and that index finger with that mouse and click.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be dying, or I'll be sniping from far away.
Cramped fingers.
Yeah, look at you dropping the Vandal lore on people. They don't call you the professor for nothing.
You know what? I'm sweating bullets, man, because I know that Chris is not going to make this easy for us. And when you take him and add in Tony Z, they're not going to make this easy. It's not going to be a cakewalk. And for them to put all this time into this, and you're going to just, once around the park, do it one more time to get my F8. Nah.
Yeah, I'm hoping Squadron 42 at least has a story mode difficulty level or a beginner's level on it, because if it's all one level, I'm screwed.
yeah And he did say that fastcart, when you're talking about keeping with the narrative of what the concept was all about, he did say one of the things about acquiring that F8 was we have to set it to a higher level to attain that ship. They're not going to give it away to us. Yeah, I'm screwed too, man. I'm screwed too. Many a night playing this. I already see it now. I'm even to the extent like, okay, I got some vacation time or whatnot. Hey, I am not kidding you, man.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And don't forget, everyone, if you want to come and talk with us, click on the link on Discord.
Yes.
Come and talk with us.
Please. It's encouraged. We want that. Come on and share and talk about your experiences of Star Citizen.
The interactions that we have in our game.
We're just conversating, man. We're just hanging out, basically. It's Friday night. We're live. It's
define
late.
How
Let's do it.
Simulated that space
here's
feels,
the inside
how
Star Citizen
real and
for this
immersive it reacts, and is a big part of driving emergent gameplay of,
you know what?
I see a thing, I understand it, I expect it to behave a certain way, and then it does.
It was so good to see him again, man.
No, we haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, and it's good to
We make zoos
and again,
primarily
for anyone
to
who's in
demonstrate
game
a
development,
playground of the
you have that longevity. But I love it. You know, there with this right here, this lets us know that Squadron 42 is in good hands, and it's also, I think, a testament of what they've been working on as far as these things that you're going to have to do in game, interact with these objects and features. And it's not just them just putting it into a lab and just throwing these features in and saying, "Oh, we're going to see how that works. Does that really work?" We're seeing an echo of what Squadron 42 could possibly be like in the regards of, you know, you're being assigned to whether it's a space station, interacting with these objects, moving about, going about these different things inside these stations and possibly capital ships. So this is not just them arbitrarily trying out things and saying it's a hit or miss. These are all purposed. These are all things that I would say that came from the hard work that they've been doing with Squadron 42. We're seeing the back end now. We're seeing these possibilities of what it could be in the persistent universe. So these are assets and features to say, okay, this is we already got this into Squadron 42. Now you're going to see these benefits and results into the PU, where we can place out these objects and features into this diverse and illustrious universe. So really cool stuff.
functionality that we have.
It's almost like
And
it's almost
also,
like
here is an example setup of how those things are achieved. A designer is able to go in and see that if they've had any issue with their own implementation prior to bothering an engineer, they can take a look at the gold standard of here's a thing with nothing else working. See if that gives you some hints first before we start interrupting an engineer. If you go in and you find it broken, that's a good moment to call an engineer. All that in mind, we've been making an interaction zoo, a place to demonstrate all of the different nuanced and complicated interactions that we can get between a bunch of different entities that designers can go take a look at and draw inspiration from to pull into their levels, their ships, their whatever environments we're making. The reason I like zoos, philosophically, I believe as a game designer, the two core parts of gameplay are collision and doors. With our doors, we've got all these automatic doors, and those doors connect between rooms, and every time a door doesn't react the way you expect, it breaks your immersion and pulls you out of the game. Even with something simple like a control panel, we can explore things like enabling and disabling the proximity sensor so that you have control over whether or not it lets you through automatically or if you have to interact, and make sure it's all working properly. Beyond the control panels, there's the doors themselves, which give us many opportunities for complex and nuanced behaviors. So we've explored things where if you cut the power to a door, it'll stop its behavior. The lights will go out on the control panel and you won't be able to interact with it in that way anymore. But then maybe we make this wedge kit that you physically place on the door, which pries it open, and which allows you then to sneak through. And maybe even past that, there's the locks on the door could be physical and have their own state and have their own health, and if those things get changed, either by some lockpicking gameplay or some damage or some external thing that we could explore even beyond, that you might trigger an alarm. When alarm triggers, we want to have that event actually get passed through the environment. And so, even just by having a single chain of communication, being able to interrupt it at any stage or alter it at any stage creates all this opportunity for subversion, reaction, for the doors to get locked down, and for the alarm lights to go off and start blaring, or for those things to fail to happen or get stuck in that state because something went wrong or some sabotage went right. As each thing feeds into the next behavior, it creates a world that feels real. It creates a world you can make a plan for and a world you can react to.
The way in
So what do you think?
Oh, I love it. It definitely gives us a little insight into the gameplay where it's not just we're playing this on rails. There's going to be instances where we have interactions where we have to maybe work our way around a situation, or there's a different alternative to figuring out a problem, such as when I saw the most recent thing with the explosions or the things that you do with the rooms. I kind of look at maybe you're engaging pirates and maybe you can do some certain things to a room, such as take the oxygen out or cut out lights. So if there's a bunch and if
gravity.
you're engaging a number of them, you can take out lights and such, and or to try to get away and gather your troops together. So it's not going to be this typical this standard gameplay that we've been accustomed to recently, where everything is on rails and it's on one track. We're talking about being able to have several various solutions to problems that's going to exist, especially with us being stationed at the orbital comms array space station or the capital ships.
Mining.
Yes. Yep. So yeah, I am loving this.
Yeah, Chris said at the very beginning that there'll be multiple solutions to various problems. You don't have to just go in gun blazing and a little bit of Metal Gear Solid and sneaking around and stuff like that. So I'll probably be doing a mixture, but mostly sneaking around, depending on what the situation. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Sometimes I just want to throw a grenade and see what happens.
That's why I got the grenade launcher, fastcart. That's my favorite weapon.
Yeah, I mean, specifically for Squadron 42, for the PU, maybe something different. But yeah, for Squadron 42, I'll be doing whatever works.
Yes, and definitely the loadouts is a big thing with oncoming of iCache, and these items are going to really literally count, right? Figuratively and literally, it's going to count, and you have to be wise and strategic in how you use these things and your counts, because you don't know how many enemies you're going to engage based upon that situation, you know? So yeah, stealth aspects will play a part, especially when you have a limited amount of ballistics and energy weapon packs. So that trusty knife that we've been gifted will definitely come into play, where you can stealthily take out opponents, and then with the body dragging, move them in areas where you're not where other people are patrolling. They may see this, like what you said, fastcart, about what was the game you were talking about? The
Doom and Quake. No,
not Doom and Quake. The stealth game.
Oh, Dark Souls.
No, you were just what was his name? Snake.
Oh, Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid type of gameplay where you don't leave bodies hanging around, right, laying out, and then all of a sudden the patrols are alerted. So you gotta move them around and hide them into places, and even like those grates where you can under vents and grates that you can travel through, even to the extent when we saw where you can go outside the station.
Oh, and I'm sorry about that. I never played Metal Gear Solid, so it wasn't on my brain. I just know the gameplay. I just know it by reputation rather than by experience. So that's why it took me a while to figure
Cool. But you mentioned it, and I was like, okay, he knows about it. I was like, wait a minute, you just mentioned it. I had a brain fart, but yeah, Metal Gear, it goes way back to the days of the 8-bit Nintendo, the original Nintendo, and it was a huge.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it goes way back.
All right, so let's go on with the
Game world is essential to creating an immersive and enjoyable experience. And we hope that many of the interactions seen here, and quite a few that are maybe a little too early to share, will make their way into the persistent universe. But before that happens, it's time once again for a sprint report, so let's get to it. Now, there will be plenty of ship news coming out of IAE in the coming weeks, but let's go ahead and take a quick look at work from the graphics team on adding iridescence to the hard surface shader, seen here on the Talon Light Fighter from Asperia. Now, coming from the original concept, the iridescent paint allows us to showcase a variety of luminous colors that seemingly change when observed from different angles. This isn't necessarily the final look of the ship, but only a first implementation of this new aspect of the shader. You can bet that we'll be dialing it in further and that we'll see more of the Talon in later weeks ahead of its intended release in Alpha 3.12. As part of an overall effort to revamp and unify the way scanning and radar works for vehicles and FPS players alike, the vehicle tech team has progressed on what they're calling the Radar Object Collection Subsystem. Now, using a temporary back-end UI at the moment while it's still being developed, this will eventually form the underlying basis of finding and filtering almost anything with an ambient signature. You can see how enabling the resource filter shows mineable rocks ahead, while toggling the infrared adds the cutlass info that's a bit farther behind them. Now, since not all scanning options will be available in all situations, reducing our options down to a simple cross-section scan means that we can see the ship when unobstructed, but that scan data is now occluded as asteroids or other items come between you and your target. Now, as this develops, it will apply to both ships as well as players or NPCs hiding behind large objects, walls, or even doors.
You know what? I love this fastcart. I want to jump in here and interject real quick. This hails back to the first time that Chris did that pitch with Squadron 42, where you had the ships that was flying, and then you had the Vandal that was hiding behind the asteroids, and you said to yourself, wow, asteroids is a thing, right? It really is a thing. And now the fact that he stuck to that narrative, and now we're seeing the full iteration of that concept from the beginning to where it is now, and it's perfect. I mean, it is perfect. And I don't believe it stops with the asteroids, but it also will probably incorporate with the oncoming Lagrange point. Initially, they're going to just push that in. Oh, man, Elborn, thank you for the follow. 017, thank you so much.
So thank you for the follow.
But with those Lagrange points and those clouds, I would suspect that it also would interfere with your scanners, depending on, especially with oncoming of Pyro, where we have this distortion of radioactivity and these, the solar flares.
The coil in Squadron 42 is probably going to be all about that.
Yes, great point. Yep, the Odin system, right? So again, it's those assets from Squadron 42, and once they're in concept, they're in Squadron 42. That's an immediate benefit to the persistent universe. I love this. Also, when we're talking about PvP and the aspects of PvP, people are, I had some friends who were dead set on the flight model when it was first developed, and they were dead set on it. And then when it changed, it turned them off, right? It's just to say this: the flight model is not the end all, the say all in this entire grand scope of things. Whereas you have these strategic points, like what they just showed here with the asteroids, flying through the asteroids as cover, being attacked, trying to get away, or you being pursued, and you have the opportunity to get away. So there's so many layers and aspects. And again, flight model was still being worked on. So I love this, man.
And I was more thinking about the talent and iridescent color and stuff like that. Like I'm looking forward to being able to decorate my ship and putting colors and stuff like that. I'm not going to say all my ships are going to be red, but pretty much all my ships are going to be black and red. I still want the Mustang Omega, but short of that, I'm going to make an Omega, make a Mustang, whatever Mustang I have.
Yes.
Stuff like that. So, the colors in this thing look amazing.
Iridescent, yeah. Some people call it mother of pearl. It has that luster and it changes. on the angles that you walk around it, and those.
Got knowledge. Trying to make me look dumb. No, I am dumb compared to Kimmy, but that's fine. But yeah, that had my interest, and I'm looking forward to that being in the game.
Yeah, but yeah,
Meanwhile,
the talent and the shriek. Do I call it the shriek? Strike. Okay. You know what? This is another thing where we're seeing more alien ships proliferate into the PU, and it's good to know that how quickly. Here's a good point about these two ships.
We're going to talk about alien ships on Sunday. So I'm doing it for Star Citizen.
I'm going to hold it.
Okay.
I was going to let loose, but I'm going to hold it. But it's going to be good for IAE. We expect this in IAE,
infrastructure and how that sits within the upcoming
Lagrange
point
the fact that they're getting these ships and they're giving you variations that we were not
to get an early
ready
look at
for,
what these
right?
stations might look like once they're embedded in the upcoming Alpha 3.12.
Right?
After some consideration, one thought was that maybe a few more asteroids could be used to flesh out and more appropriately theme the exterior of these refinery stations. That was an easy call, but it will also have to be balanced with our desire to avoid turning our major trucking lanes into obstacle courses. Well, not all of them anyway. Now, while the look of these are coming along nicely, we'll talk more about how actual refining gameplay itself will work next week. Finally, let's check in once again with the ongoing work of our colonial-style homesteads. Last time, we saw the 2D concepts turned into 3D concepts, and that was a big step in helping us visualize and evaluate the direction we wanted to take them. What you're seeing here is the next step in that look dev process, where we've now taken the raw, very rough 3D concept meshes and brought them down to a planet in engine, similar to the way the team reviewed 3D docking concepts by sticking them onto existing space stations. Now, it's important to note here that these are still concepts, and that the process of building them into viable in-game assets has not yet begun. So let's set our expectations accordingly. Tests like this are used to help us evaluate things like shape language, how the structures feel along or against certain landscapes, what kinds of visual stories can be told through placement, orientation, or combination, and even be used to help identify any sort of structure type that might still be missing from the proposed toy box. Beyond this test, it's also just a really cool look into Star Citizen's future, when one day frontier towns full of NPCs with jobs or missions can be found throughout the universe. And then one day later, players themselves creating outposts all their own. Rest assured that as work progresses, we'll keep following. So what did we learn about this week?
All right.
Well, that there's a lot of potential in the way that we interact with doors, airlocks, and more in creating new gameplay opportunities. That when somebody asks what color your talent is, you can kind of say
disco heaven's last thing.
That changes are ahead for scanning and radar. And that someday I'm going to be the mayor of my own Discoburg, or Discoville, or Dystopia. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you next week.
Admiral Kusanagi, welcome back.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey man.
Pretty good. How about you?
Doing all right.
What did you think of this week, ISC?
I thought it was really good. What do you think about that creature there at the end?
The creature at the end?
Disco Lando?
If you look at the if you look at the ISC again, trying to find. Oh, there it is. If you go to minute 8:06, you might see something there.
Man, I have to nominate
you as
Eagle Eye.
Actually, I'm gonna have to call out Doc TK for this, but yeah, if you go to 8:06,
good
you might
stuff,
see
Admiral.
something.
Okay.
Right there.
All
Stop.
right.
Holy smokes.
See it?
Okay.
If you look
Admiral,
between the
Where?
rock, right in the middle of the screen to the left, you'll see like a little to the left of that white doorway, and the center rock there on the left hand side. There's like a shady creature
space
there.
Crab?
It looks like a space crab.
Oh no, that's not my area, dude. I'm not homesteading that. You better be freaking trained.
House trained.
Yes,
desert trained in this
or on a
case.
leash or something.
Yeah, for those, I gotta. If I could post a link real quick, I can put a screenshot on here if you
Oh my god!
Hold on, let me show
give
you.
me access.
But that is the shape, man. That is the shape.
There you go.
All right, let me paste this so everyone can take a look at it.
Oh, didn't work. Let me send it to me in
that's it.
Discord.
I got it.
No, it came up as three asterisks for the rest of us.
Yep.
Oh,
I
To see
see
it in the
chat.
yeah.
Well, let me. I'll post it
send
in
to me.
Discord, then you can post it. I'll put it in general.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is the
I wasn't
distinct
able to see it.
shape.
All right, then you can see it there, and then post it how you want.
Nice. For me, seeing the homesteads from concept or sketch, right, to 3D and Blender, which that was the following thing, and then into concept into Star Engine / Cry Engine. To see it happen that quickly, it goes back to saying that Chris CR wants bounty hunting bad. He wants it so bad. Because it's going to build out what bounty hunting is really truly about, that cat and mouse of searching for these marks, these hits. So yeah, that's fun. I'm looking at the link, the JPEG, the PNG. It's fun. That's fun.
You know why I miss it? Because I thought I was looking for something small. It's huge.
Yes, it is. Yeah, they've always been huge. That's the mother.
Yeah. No, the very first Constellation. Yeah, I think it was Constellation commercial that had a little critter going along. But then later on they got huge. So that's why I was missing it. I was looking at it thinking it was a rock, but no, it's a crab.
It's a great point that you bring that up to fastcart about that tiny crab that the alien was bashing with the stick or the whatever that object was. And also to the crabs, I forget the name of it, but the crab that was in the aquarium. Remember the alien sea aquarium?
They kept on disappearing.
Yes. For them taking the tech and then recycling it into new assets or features in game. I love it. But yeah, this is definitely all on CR right here. So
I mean, Well, I'll start with this area back here. I mean, I absolutely love the way they're looking at way they're putting the structures together.
Yes,
it's just coming along fantastic. It's like I wasn't here earlier. I guess I'll back up a bit and talk about. I love how the new ship is coming along. I have the bomber myself. I'm looking forward to that and seeing how that's gonna turn out. The Shrike, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then the asteroids capabilities there with if you go beyond past an asteroid or between, like, say, if I'm I'll say if one of if I'm like Kimmy, if Kimmy and I are kind of doing a one-on-one and I go behind a rock, then he can't see me. It's like so cool.
Yes, and so much strategy in that.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic, and be able to hide. I mean, you could literally, if you think about, if you could put a fixed gun emplacement inside of like an area where you're using an Orion, for instance, and they're facing towards the Orion and no one can see them from outside, then really you should be able to just control like an inner asteroid area. And if you came into that asteroid area, then you'd just get lit up because you wouldn't be able to detect them on your scanner. I'm
going to segue on that, Admiral, and say, for me, in my gameplay aspect of Star Citizen, I'm more of the blue collar, the bottom line guy. So for me, in a prospector and being in a heavy, rich or dense, mineral rich and dense asteroid field, oh my God, I am going to have a ball because you may scan me to say, okay, fastcart is probably pirating and he's trying to scan and I'm jumping between these asteroids. I gotta use you, fastcart. But
No,
yeah,
you Silver Bathory. He's more the pirate guy.
Yeah, but that's another aspect of being able to play that cat and mouse in Star Citizen in regards to being able to do your work and it not being so much of being dependent on the UEE to bail you out of trouble. So, you can go through like the mouse going to the cheese and he's going through the maze and you get to that point where there's a clear shot to go quantum and you have prey behind you trying to hunt you down. I love it. I love it. I love it. The balance is coming in. Love that.
Now, what do you think about them potentially saying because you were just talking about minerals in an asteroid field, is like iron and laranite, is the different dense minerals, does that change like how, like is that like cover you or kind of give you a little bit of stealth? And if so, with like some radiological elements that you have in an asteroid, would that cover you from EM signatures and stuff like that?
Ooh, but depends on the mineral and the asteroid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point there, Admiral. What type of materials will give off signatures or emit signals or be able to or allow you to be trackable?
Right.
That's something they can play with, and where we have the capability to jettison certain aspects of our minables, right? So if we know and it gives off a signature, a type of signature, we can jettison that stuff off or use it as a means to distract.
Like if you run out of chaff, you can jettison your minables as a poor man's version of a chaff with a missile coming at you or something.
The metals. That's a good point, guys. Really good point.
I'm just gonna keep like a little gesture that comes with me on my prospector, and if he doesn't like make me laugh, I just like goodbye, red button, shit us some out.
Yeah, it's coming along. I mean, it's really coming along.
All right, so let's go on to SCL this week.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Star Citizen Live Vehicle Experience Q&A. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee. If you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, it's where we take about an hour out of our week at the end of the week to do all kinds of things. Sometimes we explore the making of a thing. Sometimes we do roundtable discussions. This week, we have got members of our vehicle experience and vehicle content teams here to join us on the show this week to answer some general questions about the overall vehicle experience, the operation of vehicles within Star Citizen's universe. So let's start. It's everybody's first show, so let's start just at the top and go clockwise here. Richard, tell people who you are, what you do.
Yep. So I'm Richard, and I'm the lead designer on the vehicle experience team.
And what does a lead designer do?
So I kind of look after the main vision and also look after other members of the design team to make sure we're all doing the right stuff.
Okay. And Yogi, you're a member of the vehicle experience team. Who are you and what do you do?
I am Yogi, and I'm a coder for the vehicle experience team. So I do a lot of like gameplay prototypes and stuff like that. Yeah, working closely with Rich.
Okay. And David, you are a member of the vehicle content team. Who are you and what do you do?
Quite true.
No, vehicle feature team. Sorry.
There we go. Yeah, I'm the product owner of the vehicle feature team. So I look after all of the features, the vehicle features pretty much, and ensure that they're keeping in line with their design vision. And I'm a programmer as well, so I help out with the code for the features too.
Gotcha. Now, Dave, you actually have a meeting in 30 minutes. So
true, yeah.
you have a no-go meeting in 30 minutes. So you're only going to be here for about the first half of the show. We brought you in because when we were setting the questions, there's often some confusion amongst the community between what is the realm of the vehicle experience team, what is the realm of the vehicle feature team, and what is the realm of the vehicle content team. So let's start off there. So because we do take questions live, let's do just a primer here. What does the vehicle experience team focus on?
So as far as vehicle experience goes, it's almost self-explanatory, but not quite. So we kind of look after the experience of the ships. So you've got something. Dave on the feature team will build the technology that makes the ships fly, but then the vehicle experience team will look after all the tuning, and we'll also work closely with Dave to kind of, create the flight model. And also we tune all kind of aspects of the game, from the basic power plants, coolers, to the guns and the weaponry system, and then we also look after the combat system, so the experience that players have, and that was kind of key with the turret experience as well. We looked at what we could do just from Excel point of view to look after that kind of experience and make the turrets better. So we're kind of like a middle ground between kind of a feature team and a concept team, where we make things feel better, and we try and just kind of make them feel better and kind of make them feel connected to one another. So all the complex systems we're building, are kind of communicated and they feel good when players play them.
It's worth adding as well that the vehicle experience team and the vehicle feature team are not like wholly separate entities. Like, we work very closely together, and the vehicle experience team is usually the group who helps the feature team define the features and the design for features. You can think of them as like responsible for making sure your experience of using a vehicle is unified and consistent and good.
Gotcha. And the vehicle feature team, David, you're part of the team that works on the features that kind of plug into the ships, the things like docking or IFCS, stuff like that. The actual technical features that the ships plug into, I guess.
Yeah, we pretty much like take the vision from directors and bring it into the game and own that entire process generally. Obviously advising vehicle experience team along the way, and then we also just like maintain the features, because obviously once they've been built, the work doesn't generally just stop there. We usually go back and adjust them a lot. And so we're usually, having made them and having understood the features, we're the people who you would go to when you want to change the feature, or update it, or just, keep it working in tip-top condition.
And then the vehicle content team, who we don't have a representative from here today, they're the ones that actually make the physical ships. They're the ones who determine the layouts of the ships and stuff. I think one of the higher voted up questions was something like, can we have light switches inside all the, right inside all the entrances? That's actually a question for the vehicle content team, who actually build the ships, as opposed to the vehicle experience or the vehicle feature team. And then kind of floating nebulously is then the PU gameplay teams, who work on the actual gameplay systems like mining or salvaging, which are often closely associated with ships, but are actually not a ship system. They are a gameplay system that ships then participate within. So all of these things are they're four different teams here. They all work very closely together. They all work intertwined together. But for the purpose of questions and conversations and the stuff that we're going to be able to talk about today, our focus is primarily on the vehicle experience. Since we're here we have David for 30 minutes, we may dip into some vehicle feature stuff here and there while we've got him, but for the most part, this show is about vehicle experience. So when you submit your questions live, for those watching the show, remember to keep that in mind. If it's why does the ship have this turret or whatever, that's vehicle content. If it's why does mining work this way, that's gameplay feature. We are looking at the overall holistic experience of spaceships today, which is the mandate of the vehicle experience team. So right off the bat, and to help curate questions as we continue to go, what kind of things are the vehicle experience team working on right now?
So as far as right now, we've been working on the missile operator mode, which is coming next year. So it's going to add a lot more functionality to missiles and make them much more critical to kind of the gameplay in combat. And there's going to be a lot more changes around missile gameplay as well. When we have this mode, so we're looking at kind of the balance of missiles and torpedoes in general. Because we want the torpedoes and missiles that people to select to have a distinct purpose that they're using them for. And that goes towards the big kind of torpedoes that the Eclipse and Retaliator have. We want those ships to be very impactful in the universe. So when you do get hit on a big ship, it actually causes a lot of damage. So we're kind of working on that with injection with the operator mode, and then the operator modes kind of link in general with where we want to take operator modes and seats in general. So we're kind of discussing a lot of things in the background as far as what type of operator modes and what players can do from certain seats and certain ships. And we're kind of excited for that because it's going to really change the multi-crew gameplay in the game. So we're really excited about that going forward. And I'll let Jurgi explain what he's been working on.
So my focus recently was on missile and countermeasure gameplay. So we added a couple of fixes to 3.11 concerning the countermeasures, but it wasn't really the state that we wanted, right? It was just like a couple of band-aids. For 3.12, we've been improving the countermeasure system a lot, so you have more controls over how many countermeasures you're going to drop and all that. But the bulk of that work is somewhat complete now, so we're now shifting over to the the so-called capacitor gameplay, which has like 3 parts to it. So the parts being engines, shields, and weapons. So the weapon part tech is actually already completed. It's been done by the weapon tech team in the last quarter, and now it's for us to finish up the rest and pull these things together and get more exciting combat gameplay out of that.
All right. And Dave, what are you working on? What's your team working on right now?
I think the big thing that you might have seen in the monthly update is docking. That's probably the major focus for the whole team. But then there's also some like back burner stuff. Like we've been working on MFDs for a little while, and we're starting to pick up sort of future work for that. It's a pretty hard project, but we were starting to do that. And then we've also worked on some like underlying tech stuff with IFCS to support AI. So, giving AI more features that they can control on ships. And we also expanded out the underlying movement system in IFCS so that other systems could use it, like, for example, EVA. So now in upcoming releases, EVA characters will actually be using IFCS underneath their character movement. It's that sort of thing where it's supporting other teams, and then docking is obviously our main focus.
Okay. So let's see. Let's go ahead and start jumping into the questions. They are beginning to come in here. For a long time in the PU, the SCM has been somewhat avoided by most players. Will combat or overall speed be slowed down anytime soon to bring us closer to the intended SCM?
Not to give a yes or no answer on this, but we do have another combat summit coming up, where we're going to kind of break down actually where combat speeds should be. So we are aware that the current SCM speed probably isn't as reliable a source for where the players end up actually combating. Even though it is a way of categorizing the ship performance, it doesn't translate to the real world as far as what players are actually combating and their speed. So it is definitely something we're going to review. As far as the overall kind of combat speeds, this is definitely something we are kind of reviewing, and we don't want to just limit it and go, well, combat speed should be this. We want it to organically happen with the systems we build. So there's a lot of thought behind that, which because the speed really does define the combat experience. There's a lot of separate factors in there, but the speed is a really critical part of it.
Yeah, you covered it. I don't have anything to add to it, but Star Citizen has been adjusting the speeds of combat for a large chunk of its continuing development. It's a difficult thing to dial in and to get feeling just right, especially when you have so many different atmospheres and so many different environments and to work with. But
there's also like conflicting parts to that, because so we did a lot of gameplay tests, and we have a lot of like gameplay evidence that slower SCM speeds provide a better let's say positional combat experience.
Thank you
but
for
we need to be able to transfer large areas of space. So we're still just looking into that. So we're not set on what exactly the end result is going to be. But as Rich said, like we have another combat summit coming up, and this is one of the main pillars we're going to try to solve in that time.
Let's see.
Could that be the meeting David Colson has?
Maybe this one's for David here. How will you fix GrabLev?
GrabLev's been on my wish list for fixing for ages.
What's wrong with GrabLev?
I'm not 100% sure of exactly how we're going to do it, but the way it currently works is basically that it has this like super springy suspension, which it like hovers on, and then there's all sorts of really complicated friction modeling to make it kind of behave the way it does and let you turn and stuff. But that suspension model has obviously been kind of an issue, and it hasn't really ever really felt incredible. So I wanted to redo it for a while, but unfortunately it's lower on the priority list right now, so it probably is not going to get looked at in the immediate future. But it's definitely on the to-do list. And the exact form of how it'll work, I don't exactly know yet, but I think we need to kind of make a bunch of different quick versions and play it and see what it feels like.
Yeah, it's important to remember that even with a team and 5 studios around the world, 6 studios if you include Turbulent, everybody's working from home and stuff. With all these folks working on the game, there are still always going to be a finite number of resources, and because there's a finite number of resources, there's a finite number of things that we can be working on at any given time, and the name of that game is priority, of course. Let's see what else we got. Time to overheat. Oh, there's a good one. Time to overheat is incredibly low for most ships. For some ships, main thrusters seem to overheat faster than maneuvering thrusters. Is this intended?
So it's a consequence of the main thrusters generating the most heat because they have the most power. So our current overheating system, as far as the way that the current thrusters are tuned, it is purely based on just heat, based on the extra boost that Afterburner creates. So the heat goes up very, very quickly, but it goes up quickly on all thrusters. But also, if you're generally afterburning going forward, they're generally on more. Whereas if you're kind of afterburning with the maneuvering thrusters, you're doing a maneuver and it'll get to a maximum speed and it'll kind of stop maneuvering. But we're generally not happy with the balance of this because it is very linear at the moment. You press the button, it overheats. We want heat in general to be more of a long-term consequence, and we want the management of energy to be the short-term implications. Because we don't want players to continuously afterburn because then that becomes the default gameplay. But we want players to manage the energy, but not have to worry about the heat. I want the heat to be the long-term consequence of your choices, that you do in combat. So that's probably the best way to describe kind of our direction going forwards with heat.
Okay. David, while we got you, this one's kind of feature related. Any news on ramps or elevators using inverse kinematics or some other technology to hit the ground reliably but not actually, lift the ship?
This is a really hard technical problem. We actually tried using inverse kinematics, and it created more problems than it solved, so we didn't end up releasing it.
That was cool.
But in general, the idea is to really accurately model its physics, which right now we don't do quite as accurately as it needs to be. I don't know how technical you want me to get, Jared, but I'll go a little bit technical, right? Because it's fun for me. The physics solver that solves collisions between objects doesn't cope that well when you're moving objects too forcefully through the world, right? You have to move them with forces and accelerations and stuff to get the physics system to solve the situation correctly. But that also brings a whole bunch of other problems because if you're moving your elevator with accelerations or forces, all sorts of other stuff can move the elevator with accelerations and forces. But we're definitely making strides toward it. We have a similar situation with transit carriages, which are, a similar setup. And we're trying to physicalize transit carriages to make them really accurately physically simulated so that the collision resolution just works correctly.
Do you mean trains? Transit carriages?
Yes.
Trains? Okay.
So, but that includes elevators and trains. So that's how we want to do it, but it's really hard. And it'll take time to not have all these other like knock-on issues that you get when you physically simulate stuff accurately.
Well, luckily for Star Citizens, this history of Star Citizen is replete with
that game development is hard.
Taking the hard road because it's worth taking. That hasn't deterred us from much at this point. So I don't imagine it's going to deter us from getting this done either.
Thank you for the follow.
Like physically simulated things generally have the most
45.
like interesting and dynamic behavior, which is definitely the vision of the game. But it comes with a whole bunch of other problems that you need to solve that you wouldn't otherwise have to.
Right. Here's a nice kind of general overall question. We have a lot of questions that are coming in about balance or tuning. So let's talk about this in general a little bit. How do you decide when to do a tuning or balance pass? There seems to be a lot of inconsistencies with the relative maneuverability between ships.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. So in that general, we'll like wait for a particular point in time when a certain feature is complete. So for example, when IFSS2 was complete, we did a complete pass of every single ship in the game. And we just work through the ships from A to B. We just go through the list of ships and we tune them based on how we think they should fly based on the new system, and we're learning as we go. So what happens is by the time you've gone through 80 ships, the ships you did in like the first 5 or 6 ships are actually now not how you're tuning ships. So you've got to go back. You've got to go back on the first ones and use what you've learned in the latest ships you've done. And then there's also the general balance question is, you're basically tuning a Gladius, then you tune like a Constellation, and then you tune like an 890 jump. And they end up at certain points of maneuverability, and you're going, right, now, I've done the 890 jump now, so where does the Gladius line up? How much more maneuverable is the Gladius? So it's a constant dancing act between, kind of learning as you go and then having to go back. And then we get to a certain point where we're kind of happy with it. And then what happens is it goes out, obviously, and then the players play it, and they fly through the ships, and we get all this new feedback, and some of it is probably expected because we took a gamble at maybe where a certain ship fits within the universe, because a ship where it fits isn't all tuning. It's based on the power of the guns, and how many guns it has, how many power plant, how many coolers it might have. It's, which might mean one ship's faster, but one ship could be stronger, for example. So we try and balance all these different aspects coming together, and then we get all this feedback from the community, and we work through it with the community team, and we look through what's correct, and then we try and quantify this with the data that the game produces. So we look at what ships are strong and what ships are weak, and then we try and figure out why they're weak or strong. But it is always it's always a balancing act, and it's constantly moving because of what we learn as we go, and also we're constantly making changes to RCS and the way ships fly as well. So we recently did an aerodynamic pass, obviously, that went out, and that required a retune of certain ships to make them move in atmosphere the way we wanted them to. And then that's like another learning process. We've learned how aerodynamics work, but then how does it influence the space flight? The changes that we've made. So it might feel sometimes that a couple of ships, you've got some ships that don't quite feel right, but our goal is always to go back and retune these. And we're getting a better idea of where all these ships fit in the game at the same time as well.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So the next big tuning pass is planned for when we actually have the capacitor systems in place, because they will dictate or they will play a large part in how in dictating the ship performance, right? And one goal of the next Combat Summit is also just to create something like a relative ship tuning matrix, so that we have like very precise numbers, which with which we can compare the ship performances against, or at least setting a goal state, saying, okay, the Gladius, for example, is really good in this area, right? But is really not good in this area, because ultimately we don't want to have like a ship that is really good in everything. We want to have specialization, and we want the ships to have a purpose, right? And like defining all these things, this will all happen.
I want a ship that's good in everything. What are you talking about?
It's important to note that one of the hallmarks of Star Citizen's development is the fact that we run a live environment in the middle of our development. This means that we don't have to develop these things, in secrecy, behind closed doors, with only our own inputs. So this opportunity that Star Citizen has, it's so unique to it, is that we can try things. We can put things out, see how it plays. Look at the metrics, look at the server records. Look at how these things perform, and then collect that information for a time period. Then make changes, then do it again. Then make changes, then do it again. And while that can be frustrating sometimes from the player perspective, because that may not be how they're used to experiencing it, because they're used to experiencing a game once it's completed and whatever, it is part and parcel of Star Citizen's DNA that we can make these decisions with the feedback and the input from the fans. So it's definitely I don't want to make a pun here, but it's a balancing game. Figuring out how and when and how much to balance at each different time. So, and then waiting for new features to come online, because there's no reason to put so much work in when there's this thing on the horizon that's going to come and smash it all anyway. So I think that's probably very smart to sit there and wait for the capacitor stuff. Also, just looking at the chat, it looks like Twitch is having some issues today with the stream. Rest assured that we've got no drop frames or anything on our end. So if you are having trouble watching on live, we will be up on YouTube.
I was having trouble with Trick too. I had to disable something on my end.
Dave, we're almost out of time for you, so I'm going to jump into some content stuff here.
Me too. That's
any chance we're working on a map or something that allows us to land without the need for using third-person view?
So not a map exactly, but we've always wanted to bring back the landing radar view that we had. I can't remember the patch number now. It's like 2.5, maybe something like that. We had this 3D radar view where you would go into landing mode and it would show a little model of your ship on your radar and the landing pad underneath it. And we've always wanted that back. And I happen to know at the moment that the UI team is looking into updating the radar to use building blocks, because it's still on the old tech. And so it would be an excellent time to revisit that feature and try and get it back in the game, which would effectively allow you to have a third-person landing view without leaving the cockpit, which is like perfect.
So that's what we're pursuing.
That is what we're pursuing.
Okay.
You got me just about drinking. So that was about time.
A couple questions about self-destructs. Have you considered having EMPs shut down self-destructs? This seems like it'd be a good thing for pirates.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, so I'm a big fan of, because I did this in the PU the other day where someone tried to steal my hammerhead. I put the self-destruct on and I got out and watched it self-destruct, so nobody could steal it. So I'm a kind of fan of that kind of gameplay, but it is, I just that's fun, because it's kind of that last-ditch effort that you couldn't fight off someone coming into your ship, and then you don't want them to take it. So you strand yourself on a planet.
Yes, but at the same time, we do want to encourage, piracy and theft of ships and stuff like that. So the answer to every situation cannot be just blowing up your spaceship.
No, but that's just it's just more of a personal, kind of thought on my side about that. Whereas I'm not sure how Dave and Yogi feel about the whole pirating side of things.
I do like the pirating, but I don't think EMP should just shut down self-destruct. I would think that the self-destruct mechanism is more like chemical than electric, so it wouldn't be affected by EMP. Because setting your ship to self-destruct is you do a conscious choice, right? So at the moment, the consequences of losing your ship are not really high. I assume this will change at some point. But if somebody activates the self-destruct, I think the guy who then steps on the ship and sees I don't know, like red lights everywhere and knows that self-destruct has been activated, should do something more other than saying, "Hey, can you drop another EMP, please?" Thanks. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Dave, I know we're close to your time. You want to take this opportunity to peace out and go to your go no go?
Yes, please. It's been good to having me there. I'll see you guys another time.
All right, man. Take care. We're gonna readjust the frames here because when he disappears, our little quad is gonna disappear. Yep. I'll just drag me over here, and I'll go right.
Look how tiny I am.
I'll go right there.
Nice.
And we'll move me up here. Oh, the other direction.
There you go.
We'll cut this part out of the YouTube. Maybe not. Maybe we'll leave this there. We don't usually have people leave in the middle of the show. It's not something we're prepared for. Continuing on with the self-destruct thing, have we considered some kind of notification, either internal or close by, for ships that have initiated self-destruct? I always picture that, the countdown from Star Trek when the ship is about to self-destruct.
Rafficon.
So that is something that we wouldn't handle. Like what VET does is mostly related to when the pilot is in a seat and doing things, or when somebody's in a turret seat or something. The minute you step out of that seat, it's probably not on us anymore. But like I was always dreaming of maybe the audio team adding like something for the PA system where the captain says, "Self-destruct has been activated. You should go to your escape ports," or something like that. But ultimately this is like a question for the content teams, not for us.
Okay. Somebody here was remembering.
When the self-destruct is activated, I'm
the
gone.
question is this: do you fly in real life?
You sound like a pirate day to day.
One of you flies in real life, don't they? Don't you? Yogi?
I do. Though it's.
Did you send this? Did you send this question just to work this into the conversation?
Yeah, sure. I no. No, but I'm still I'm trying to get a glider license, but it's due to COVID and because the costs are not really low. I haven't done this since June.
Gotcha.
But it's cool. It's fun. It's terrifying, especially the landing. It's really terrifying, but fun.
Let's see. We've seen a lot of cool engineering news on power management. We just showed the resource management system that Dan Truff and his team is working on. Will there be any similar systems for heat or data management? Are you already working on anything to integrate any of that stuff?
Heat and so on. It's more like a side thing for us. So what we're concerned with is the capacitor gameplay, and capacitors. The capacitor gameplay is kind of like in parallel to the to heat and power, right? Like with the capacitor stuff, you kind of like configure your ship and where it performs well in that specific moment. But heat development and cooling things and all that is a side thing which is independent of that, which is like it's more about like long-term decisions.
Okay. In chat, they're also asking, has anybody considered an auto flip over option for ground vehicles?
Yes, because it's very, very frustrating driving a ground vehicle and flipping over in the middle of nowhere and having no way to get it back. So that is definitely something we're gonna kind of look into. Also, we're kind of looking into where we take ground vehicles in the future and the technology behind the ground vehicles, because it's fair to say that it's definitely not to the standard that we want for the ground vehicles compared to the ships. So our goal is to fully bring up the ground vehicles to the same kind of standard as the ships going forward. It's just a lot of work to get all the physics correct, because you've got to get the tire, suspension, the actual physics working correctly, so you can actually implement systems where you can flip over the vehicle. And we do kind of want this to be maybe a couple of different ways. Maybe the player can carry a tool that can push the vehicle back over, or maybe the ground vehicle can have thrusters on sometimes to kind of flip it back over.
I wonder if
it needs better physics to do that at the moment.
I actually don't know the answer to this. I wonder if the new tractor beam attachment for the
spring modules that have like a hydro.
That'd be an interesting one.
I actually don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah.
We'll see if we find out before the quarter's over.
I think you're going to call the Space AAA for that, right? So they're coming with big cranes and just flip it over.
Yeah, well, so somebody fly by in their Crucible, you just flip upside down, use the big crane. Ships and player characters have mouse wheel speed control. Oh, we've heard this question. I think this question comes up every time we do this show. Will ground vehicles be getting mouse wheel speed control as well?
That's definitely something we can implement on future ground vehicles when they have more fidelity to have more control over the speed of them. So yeah, that's definitely a method of control we could easily set up for the ground vehicles.
So in general, the input controls for the ground vehicles are quite old. For example, we don't have VJoy controls on some of them, or on all of them. I actually can't remember. But for example, like when you use the some of the mining lasers, they should be easier to use for vehicles. And so yeah, it would absolutely make sense to add like mouse wheel controls for the speed. It's just one of these things that is somewhere tasked up, but at the moment the focus is still on spaceships. We'll get there eventually.
How does the vehicle experience team come to a consensus as to whether a ship feels overpowered or too weak? How do you decide something needs to be fixed?
So we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but to go in a little bit more detail, we kind of the first kind of point of contact from this is when the ship goes out, and we've got loads of data that comes in saying how powerful the ship is or how weak the ship is, and it becomes pretty obvious sometimes. Like a good example is the Prowler. When that went out, suddenly there was a massive graph of just how many ships the Prowler was killing. It was like, oh, we didn't intend that to happen. And that's how we came to the conclusion with that vehicle. It can get a little bit more of a debate with some other ships. So we've got ships like the Vanguard, which it feels really nice, and it's got a lot of different options as far as its weaponry goes. So it's got a lot of other things going for it. So ships like that are kind of much harder to kind of put in where they should be, because they kind of cross over a lot of different kind of areas with different ships, and they come into contact with lots of varied ships as well. But yeah, it is from the community, and also, we went with the community, and it comes from the data side. So, these things can become pretty obvious pretty quickly once we get it out there, and they're fully tested, because, we can do all the testing we want, but, we're a very small team that works with the tuning side of things. And also, we've got players that can push the ships, and we can, to the limit, and they can fully exploit the performance of these ships. We have some really skilled pilots that not only can do that in combat, but, can also fly on planets ridiculously close to the surface, so that's something that takes a lot of skill to do that. So, that also comes into consideration when we're defining how powerful a ship is or how weak a ship is as well.
So it's practically like a mix of like gameplay testing, looking at statistics, listening to player feedback, because we cannot just use one source for that. We have to use all of them, because if you just have one source of information, then you're getting biased sometimes, right? Or you sometimes don't see things like, oh, this ship performs better because it has better audio, right? That kind of stuff can happen, right? So it's usually a combination of a lot of things. But our player base is usually pointing these things out, sometimes very loud. So and then we usually listen.
Yeah, I think the at the core of that is the answer is, like most things in life, things happen for multiple reasons, not just because this person said this or this person feels this. It's we use as many sources as we can, including as many sources of actual quantifiable data as we can get. That's the tracking that we can do on our back end now has improved so much over the last just last year, but over the last 2 years. The stuff that we can see is really cool, and it's part of how recent promotions like the Halloween helmets and stuff all work on that tracking data. Like we can tell precisely where people go and how long it takes them to get there, and how long they live once they're there and stuff like that. And all that information gets fed into feeding this drawing this picture for us for how successful these ships are in any given situation. So
we've got special tools as well that we use to kind of validate the performance of the ship, so we can record our ships at quite high kind of physics rate and kind of look back at what kind of maneuvers these ships can pull as well. We can compare that directly with the ships, and we can export the data from that to kind of compare the physical performance. But as you say, it comes from all different sources. Because there isn't any point of just looking at the data, because although data is very important, it never really tells the complete story of how something works in a game such a game as complex as Star Citizen.
Let's see what else we have from the chat here. Are we ever going to get an end to the XYZ has joined our ship channel? It makes it very difficult for someone to sneak on board a ship. Not to mention, it kind of clutters the screen with a lot of notifications.
That is an excellent question for Turbulent.
Okay.
But I think from what I heard is, I think the ultimate goal is having more like an opt-in solution, so you can actually select whether you join the ship channel or not. That said, this week I was killed this way because I didn't pay attention to that. I was like, I like this view, and somebody sneaked out of my freelancer cockpit and shot me in the back like 5 times. I was so angry. But yeah, it happens.
So that's another. It's another good example of how even though it seems like obviously this is something that would affect the experience that happens in ships, it's actually yet another team working together, plugging their feature into creating this overall thing. So yeah, that's the chat system there, just ruining stuff for trolls. It's not cool. It's not cool, Benoit. Let's talk some time to kill. Let's talk time to kill. Does time to kill or disable currently reflect what CIG intends? At the moment, it can take several minutes sometimes to kill some of the more medium-sized ships with meta shields if the pilot has a minimal ability to fly. This person has a very specific situation. I don't know if this person's admitting they have a minimal ability to fly, or maybe I wrote this. Talk to us about time to kill. Talk to us about dialing in time to kill. This has got to be a pain in the ass.
It's what we have at the moment is not the goal state. So from our gameplay tests, what works best for us is a rather short time to kill, but a long fight to get into the kill windows to do the shots, right? And I'm saying it again, but the capacitor gameplay is supposed to allow you to get into those windows, right? So you can you can spend some let's say some resources like some stamina or whatever to get into a good position, and if you overcommit yourself or if you undercommit yourself, then you are at a disadvantage, right? And our ultimate goal for dogfighting is to make that relation really really let's say interesting. So if you're in a good kill position and you fire all your weapons and you have enough resources left, then yeah, we want you to kill whatever your opponent is, right? I'm saying this carefully for if it's like the same ship class, obviously, right? Of course, you can't do this against a Bengal carrier or something like that. But that's a different story altogether. So no, that is not our. So the current state is not what we're gonna plan. But in order to set this up properly, we first need the capacitor systems online. So until then, you have you have maybe a couple of band-aids. But yeah, it's not the final experience that we want.
And of course, we get this a lot. It's not just the capacitor system. It's things like the resource management system that we just showed off last week on ISC. It's as engineers on board ships can begin to affect repairs, that will affect the time to the time to kill for ships as the new shield system comes on it comes online and stuff like that. It's just all of these features all plug into this giant economy of vehicle experience, and they will all affect things and all trade things. So trying to balance this again right now, where these other features are still outstanding, would be tantamount to a fool's error. We cannot approximate the experience that we want until the features that we want are online. So no, not representative.
With that said, right? With that said, we definitely do not want any meta loadouts, right? We want players to specialize their equipment for the purpose that they want to use the ship for, right? But we definitely do not want to see, this is the shield generator that always works best for all players. So if we see that in the statistics or on the feedback, right, then it means that we did something wrong, and then we have to adjust it. because like meta loadouts of any kind is not what we want.
There's always going to be a meta loadout.
No, there's not. We can do better. It takes a while, but we can do better.
I appreciate the effort.
Challenge accepted.
I appreciate the effort, but the history of MMOs is replete with there will always be some meta. Even if it's not real, there will still be a perceived meta. At the very least, it'll be like I suppose if you get it down to like this one gives you a 1.8%, or more viability and whatever. It's like I think it's probably more about minimizing that meta. But I agree with you wholeheartedly about the philosophy, about the effort should be put into destroying the meta at every opportunity. So that because to encourage player choice and player agency and finding creative solutions to issues whenever possible. So I'm with you on the intent. I just think you have your work cut out for you because the history of MMOs says otherwise.
That's our job. Do it.
Let's see what else we got from the chat. Have we considered a bounce pass on distortion? This person is saying that at the moment it's negatively impacting the current combat experience. Specifically, distro vanguards are particularly oppressive. Probably wouldn't hear Vanguard owners saying that. I don't think this is from a Vanguard owner.
So we know that there's an issue with distortion. I know that Johnny investigated a little bit of time into that. I do not know at this point what the state is, but once we find out, we will update the data and fix it, of course. But that's all we can say at the moment. It's still under investigation.
Here's an interesting one from the chat. As the vehicle experience team, we talked about, feature teams are separate teams from you. You guys do not create new features. You work to help tune and refine the features that are there. But this question is, as the vehicle experience team, has your feedback led to any new gameplay features or design changes for ships? Can you think of time where more than just balancing or tuning or adjusting, your work has actually pushed something in a new direction?
Yeah. So we got a lot of comments about the way that missiles work in the game, for example. And it wasn't just a case of just going in there and just tuning a few numbers to make missile gameplay good or fun again. So we came up with a missile operator mode. And that was a direct kind of thing from just going, well, this, we can tune all these values, but it's not going to give us the gameplay that we want. So, we came up with the missile operator mode. So that's kind of a really good example of that. And it's fair to say that the same thing happened with the capacitor gameplay as well. That was a direct consequence of us just looking at what we have in the direction we were going and kind of analyze all the gameplay features we have and going, right, if we do this, it's still not going to be enough to give us the gameplay experience we want. So, we came up with the capacitor idea and, we're kind of really excited about that as far as its changes to what the gameplay that we want, to give us that kind of long-term and short-term management.
So I would also say we had a pretty successful run for us in terms of development. So VT was founded about a year ago, right? And one of the first things we did was setting up the combat summit, which included Rich, me, then it was David and Michael Smith from the user experience or player experience department, and we just sat down and focused for a week just to isolate all the issues we had. We looked at very early Arena Commander patches and we're looking at why was combat working in some cases so much better there, right? And then based on that, we defined a lot of goals we wanted to achieve. So the capacitor gameplay is one of the things that came out of that discussion, but it was also clear it was too complicated to just implement it within one release, right? So we created some prototypes and then tested them heavily internally to get an idea whether it works or not. So we're quite confident that the changes will work well, but also other things. For example, the fixed assist, which improved the viability of fixed weapons again. All that came all out of the combat summit, right? So in that regard, we kind of we set some goals and work towards them. And I would like to think that the last 2 or 3 releases are like, and especially in terms of how the combat experience has improved, is a direct result from that. So yeah, I'd like to believe that we were successful so far, but we're definitely far from being done.
Okay. We talked a bit about the SCM speeds before. This we got a question about acceleration itself. Currently, acceleration on most ships is too low to encounter the physiological G effects. Is there a plan to give some ships performance on certain axes to rival modern aircraft, so that redouts and blackouts and stuff are a bit more prevalent than they currently are? This person wants more redouts and blackouts? Is that what I'm getting?
Wants more?
I just want a nitro button.
We've got 2 sides to this. We've got the overall ship performance in space, which, we have cut down on kind of some of the physiological, G kind of limits. But again, we are reviewing these limits. But also in atmosphere, we're looking at having control surfaces on the ships again. So this is going to allow the ships to move from just being pushed by the thrusters to being pushed by aerodynamics, which is a much stronger force. So we're going to have ships that are like racing, full-on racing performance ships that can do unbelievably tight turns in atmosphere with control surfaces. And the consequence of that is that's going to be really high G. So it does push the limits on something like the M50 right now. You can definitely black out in ships like that currently. But with control services, you'll have to be even more careful. So we'll get much closer to actually the physical limits before, the pilots have serious consequences.
Yeah, lift is awesome. On top of that, we're not really happy how the current GeForce exhaustion model works. At the moment, it has like the single exhaustion axes of the actor are kind of like isolated from each other, so there's no overall exhaustion value. And once we added this will be, or once we re-add this will be like another factor in how you can perform, because like you do not need to only take care of your own ship. You also need to take care of your body, right? We'll also have some talks with the actor team, if we can talk about like specialized flight suits that will increase or decrease the limit, the GeForce limits for those pilots. We'll have to see what comes out of that. But yeah, it's GeForce will play a bigger role in the future again.
Yeah. Richard, you mentioned racing. That was actually the next question I got here. I know you're a big F1 guy here. What place does racing have in the new vehicle experience? It kind of feels like this activity has been left behind somewhat.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. We haven't touched the racing levels for a long time, and the flight model has drastically changed. Since those kind of levels were created. So we're pretty confident now that the flight model we have, and once we have control surfaces, will really allow racing to come back, because these ships will specifically do maneuvers that no other ship can do, and that'll define the levels that we can create. So it's definitely something that I think will come back, to Star Citizen. Because I'm a big racing fan, I'd love to be in a race with other people and try and beat them or lose.
Can't get them anymore.
You gotta find a way.
We can kind of look at in the future. And
I tried. Trust me.
So we are confident that the complete change to the flight model that's happened since we originally had racing in the game, is going to allow racing to come back in a much stronger way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Think
about
the
levels. They
Apollo
are very, very old, so they would need to be redone.
So
but yeah, for example, what I like about the aerodynamics is like if you want to brake, go and decouple, just go 90 degrees towards your angle, get an angle of attack of 90 degrees towards the wind. You slow down very, very fast, right? And it's like that kind of stuff that you can use later in racing to overcome or obstacles and all that, right?
I'm excited.
In addition to
about
that,
racing.
like the requirements
it's a game within
for
itself.
space combat maneuvering and for racing are actually quite similar. So whatever we're gonna
We have
improve
the
in space combat will
locations
also
to support
ultimately
it too,
benefit the racing
and the
parts of
different
the
courses,
game.
so it doesn't Come aboard. Different types.
Here's a meta question. The Arrow and the Gladius have been the meta ships for well over a year now, due to them being the only ships that can decently maneuver. There's some strong opinion in there, but I don't know that I'd argue against it. Is there a plan to bring the other fighters back into viability like they used to be? And challenge is to answer without using the word capacitor.
That's a category on itself.
The answer is yes. We do have a plan for this. So once we do have the blank, when we do that work going forward, and that's when we're going to retune all the ships. Basically, that's what I'm trying to get to. Is when we get to the point where we retune the ships. That's going to be the point where we really analyze how close ships can be. Because we do realize the Arrow and the Gladius are probably further away. The performance of those ships is better than the other ships that we compare them to, and that distance is greater than what we want it to be right now. So we want to kind of narrow that down to bring other ships where they are much more comparable to the Arrow and Gladius. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. And that will come with the capacitor, but it's not because of the capacitor. It's because of the tuning of the ship, and that's the point when we go back and we retune all the ships together. But our goal is to bring similar ships into similar performance windows.
Do you have an Arrow or Gladius
that's
coming?
definitely going to happen in the future.
I have
It
the Arrow.
also has to do with the purpose of the ship, right?
Not a Gladius.
If you compare two dogfighters, that will perform quite similar, right? And if you just go for dogfighting, then you have something, right? But if you, for example, trying to dogfight a heavier ship, that gameplay is going to change in the future, right? So it's not just like bigger ships, like let's say Constellation or Freelancer, are not just going to be like slower dogfighters. They're gonna fight differently. So this it just speaks again to ship specialization, and this part of our work hasn't been completed or is not complete yet.
Yeah, excellent job, Richard. Excellent job with that. We recently showed off the new style guide for the Aegis HUD. Along with some of its new functionality, like the directional markers and the compass and stuff like that. Was the VET involved in that creation process? Were you consulted? Did you get to involve in that stuff, or do you come into play farther down the line?
I can't take credit for that amazing work. But we do have some feedback based on how our specific features should look. So when it comes down to the combat markers and stuff, we do have a little bit of input here and there, but those guys, they can manage, this themselves. They're really good.
So the way how we usually work is like when we prototype our user interfaces, how we think they should be. Like we did this with the turrets. We're gonna do this with the missile operator mod. We also did this with the latest countermeasure updates. But that is just like, these are just small widgets, right? So the UI team ultimately decides how the data is represented. We just tell them what is important for us, right? For example, if you in 3.11 we added like the a little circle that shows when an incoming missile is going to hit, so it counts down, right? So all we said there was like, we want to have some kind of visual representation where the player can tell from frame to frame how much closer the missile is. It doesn't need to be a number; it can be a number, but you pick what you think works best, right? And so they did that, right? And so we hand off that control, how the elements look, over to them. So they won't dump down what we, for example, ask for. For example, the countermeasure things or the countermeasure display that you see in that style guide probably won't be like that because it's too simplistic for the new system, right? But they will swap it out with something that's like similar to what we want, but which fits into their visual style guide. So we do have a lot of like feedback, because ultimately we want functional displays, but they also need to look pretty. And man, it looks really, really pretty. Like I like the whole offset. It's like I'm totally excited about that.
Yes, and I'll take this opportunity to add that I talked to Simon extensively for this segment we were doing it, and he would like everybody to know that yes, this was the style guide for the overall look and feel, and then when they begin building it in engine, begin actually laying it over, building blocks and stuff, that's where things like the size of text and everything will be adjusted, and everything. It will go through the vehicle experience team and the player experience guys and Evocati and stuff, and those elements will be adjusted and moved and scaled to be appropriate so that folks can see it and read it appropriately. And then as far as how it looks against the bright background stuff, that is a UI tech issue. It has nothing to do with the style of the thing. That is the dynamic brightness adjustment and the drop shadow stuff that the tech team is working on. So there's work to be done to address the concerns that folks had in the chat. Yeah. That segment was about the style that they were going for. So, and I think the almost universal reaction to that was that it was a very cool style, and I'm excited to see. I'm actually really excited to see what happens with Drake. Because honestly, my favorite ship is the Genesis Starliner, but my favorite manufacturer is Drake. I love the more used future look of Blade Runner.
He's sticking to that.
So seeing what they did with that, I'm really looking forward to what a Drake, what a beat up, discount version Drake UI looks like. I think.
Yeah, but the community said it would be Carrick.
Yeah, but like overall, I wouldn't worry that there's like something is off or something like that. There will be a lot of passes on the way, so there will be contextual information sometimes and sometimes not. Well, no, we will have contextual information, right? For example, if you don't play with missiles, then there won't be missile data and all that, right? So it will all work out and look great.
Okay. That's it, guys. We made it. We're at the end of our show. Congratulations. You've knocked another one out of the park. At the end here, for those of you who are watching, obviously Twitch was having some kind of either an ingest issue or I don't know what's going on. Luckily, on our end we're fine, so that we'll put the video up on YouTube and you can catch it out on YouTube and see anything that you missed. We are going to throw the raid to I think it's Herbizita. I have no idea if I'm saying this right. They're a Spanish streamer, and when we looked into it, they're going to go down to a Microtech and attempt to do some curling with some ships today, is my understanding. So when we talk about emergent gameplay, this is maybe not exactly what we were thinking about, but we'll see it. We'll see how it works out. So tell Herbizita we said hi, Richard, Yogi, and that was Dave earlier. Thank you so much for being on the show this week. Yeah, we'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Thank you, Joe.
This has been a great week for reveals. Admiral. Okay, this is bottom line right here. This is takeaways. Definitely. You want to hear it. Admiral, what is your takeaways from seeing this? What you got for us?
He might be out there. But
there we go.
Oh, there you go.
Here I am. Okay, so really good show. A lot of information from the torpedoes and countermeasure gameplay, which is highly needed. I have a tally myself. To again, the gravity issue. I was wondering when they were talking about that, and you and I were talking in chat. I think if you could disengage your gravity and then vent the ship, and then have all the pirates get sucked out into space, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, they were talking about the UI, and you mentioned like, oh, you're gonna have to, keep attention and watch your UI because it's gonna have all this information and figure out where the missile's at. And I just kind of thought how like the roles are going to have to be so much more defined, and say you're in a freelancer and you've got all those stations for the crews to like maintain their own, like you're going to have one person on shields or potentially like tracking these missiles and stuff like that. So I think it'd be very difficult for a pilot, especially in a larger ship, to be able to just have the responsibility to do that.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, I see that. You are spot on with that, Admiral. Definitely, it's going to be a clown car situation. First iteration of us getting into that situation or being in that environment, fly and have all that. It's like the new car experience, all the bells and whistles, and you sit in the seat and you're like, okay, what do I do first? Should I read the manual or should I just drive?
Always read the manual first.
No, I mean, I certainly think that. Go ahead, Fast Cat.
By the way, if anyone else want to join us in Discord, come on in. We can talk about the SCL Star Citizen Live episode we just watched. But continue on, please.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was going to say, I mean, certainly like a fighter pilot that's the only thing they kind of do. Like if you have some orgs or some players who just want to do a specific cargo hauler and a specific and stuff like that, I could see, a fighter pilot being able to manage that type of UI a little bit better than say like a freelancer pilot who has that capability and also that support to be able to manage the UI and the information better.
Yes.
And we have a new guest. Welcome.
Good stuff, Admiral. Hello, Tessa D.
Hello, how are you?
Howdy.
I'm doing well.
Howdy.
Thank you. How are you?
Good. It's good to see everybody.
So what did you think of the Star Citizen Live episode?
Loved it. I missed part of it, but I got here just as fast as I can.
Yeah, some of the things that jumped out to me was I like the part about the ship ramp, lifting the ship. You talk about that. They're looking to it. EMP disabling self-destruct. When he first said it, I liked the idea, but then I was like, if I'm on the receiving end, I might not like it so much. So we'll see how that goes.
I want to, you know what, Fastcart? I want to ask Tessa. I want to stay in her wheelhouse because for me, when I see her streams, man, I can totally chill and relax, and she just has this calming effect in her stream, and it's great. But I learned so much from her with mining. I gotta say, everyone, if you don't know she is your go-to. But Tessa, tell me about the UI specifically with the mining. What does that mean for you, and what are you excited about that aspect of the gameplay coming online with that part of the ship mechanic for a UI mining user interface screen?
So with the mining, it's we have to go between two different screens. Actually, three different screens. We have to go between our limiter. We've got the screen that's got everything that we've got on it, and then we've got to go to our scanning screen, and then from there we have to go to our mining screen. It's gonna be so good to have things on one screen, and then you can add in being able to see all of our minerals we've picked up or all the ores we've picked up. So I have to sit there and stare at how much inert that I picked up for the entire run. And if you've ever watched my stream, you don't pick up inert. So I mean, this is going to be great. And if we can do something with the color so we don't have like yellow on yellow so that we're squinting at our PCs trying to figure out what that number actually is. Just little things like that.
I think they're working on colorblind people too.
Yes, that would be awesome. Especially with having the red and the green on the mining. I can see that really being a hassle for some people. But I'm so excited about that in the compass as well.
Let me ask you about mining real quick.
I've worked with people who are colorblind. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead, Kimmy. I was just wondering about you were talking about mining.
Oh, no, I'm listening to you, Admiral. Go ahead.
So I guess my question is, they're supposed to be able to get rid of the inert, right? Because if you can throw out like a hazardous material, are you not supposed to be able to throw out inert and just be able to process decent stuff, or what?
Well, that's going to have to come along a little bit later, and I think that them being able to show on our HUDs our mineral content is probably the first step to that. Actually, the first step is being able to jettison quantanium when it gets unstable. So that was really the first step. And then whether they go between filtering and refining, I don't know. Are they going to have filtering first and then have refining? Or are they just going to skip the filtering, which gets rid of the inert and separates out the different ores? Or are they going to go strictly to refining so that we cannot, they're going to leave that to those ships to take everything apart, and do it from there what they're going to do. I don't know. I don't know what they have in mind for that.
My
That's
guess is it
interesting.
probably depends on what ship you have. Like if you had the Orion, it'll be the most efficient way. If you have something below that, it may not be as efficient.
Right.
And also
right.
with the filtering, you know, that aspect of filtering, we're also talking about refining the material itself, almost like you're polishing the mineral to where it's more of in a pure state, which will increase value of that material. When you talk about when you have to reference the inert with the actual purity of that mineral, so it then lends to variations that when you're talking about gaming the gameplay or metagaming the gameplay, specific numbers. Now, Tony Z is able to give you these curves and variations to refinery that you can't calculate exactly what you're going to get. It's based upon how that material is refined. Then you have to sit there and say, okay, I hope that this is a good one. And you're like, oh no, it wasn't as good as I thought. Or it's like, oh my God, it went beyond my expectation. So I'm hoping for that because we need that kind of variation to drive us to go to that place and be specific about what type of materials or minerals we need. And also in regards to Tony Z and the refining and the materials and the minerals, it's all about that supply and demand, because you could have an instance where other than outside of Quantanium, aluminum may be a thing that it's in so much of a demand that it may be almost as valuable as Quantanium when we start introducing those materials like that with the economy system. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. And that's going, of course, it's going to go hand in hand with our cargo hauling and our cargo trading. You know, it's going to definitely change the way we mine. Of course, everybody mines right now with what the gameplay has. You know, aluminum is crap, gold is crap, you know, but you know, you're absolutely
now, right?
right. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. You know, there's a demand for gold, so all of a sudden we have the gold rush on, and you know, you're going to the refinery and you're seeing what they're going to give you for it, and whether you've got a full load of pure gold or you've got other ore mixed into it and don't get quite as much as you're hoping.
Yes.
You know, I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited to think of refineries coming, and you know, that's getting refined down, and now our cats are ready to pick up and haul, or our C2s, or you know, it's
Oh my gosh.
you know, it's just
Transferring and all this
so
crazy
exciting
stuff
to think
going
that
on.
that's not that far around the corner for us.
Now, let me ask you in regards to that, do you feel like you want your own refining ships, or do you just want to just use a refinery station, and like which do you feel is safer, I guess, and more economical for you?
Blue collar or CEO, Tessa? Fast
Both.
car.
I think both. Well, you know, if I wasn't a streamer, I would probably let the org members who have those big ships in multiple quantities. But being a streamer, I'm going to have it, you know, to show, you know, the people who aren't playing or can't play at that moment, you know, the Orion and how it works, the insides and the outs. And I'm going to continue to teach as well, you know, as
Thank you.
as we progress in the game. So I'm going to use those as tools as well. But if I were not streaming, I would definitely just use what the org has and be a worker bee and be support. I think so many people want those ships just because they want to, you know, they want them, and I don't have that need to have every ship. That's not my gameplay. I will say that I do have a few ships that are on my covet list. That I don't need, but I really do want. But no, I will have one because I do stream and I do teach. I can't wait for it. Bring me the Orion. Bring it.
Yes.
I just want the refinery ship whenever that comes out, and then I mean, I could get the Orion. I have a Prospector. I didn't like the medium miner. It's got a bad kitchen layout. I don't know how you're supposed to bring up groceries up that ladder. So.
Is that the mold animal you're talking about?
Very carefully.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. Do you think that the mold will do some filtering? I don't know about refining, but filtering. Do you think
that would be great?
I mean,
I mean, it's probably got the space for it. I think definitely if you look in the back, you know, you look at the engine. Well, not the engineering section. Well, I don't know what you want to call it, but like the suction area in the back of the ship. It looks like it could filter stuff out.
Yeah.
Well, the fact
I've
that
looked at it too.
Yeah, the fact that they mentioned the UI and you're having separate screens, it would why not have the pilot himself? He's just sitting there, and if you're in a stationary place and all the other stations are mining, why not give him the ability to filter while he's in a stationary position? That would be something great for him to be able to interact in that aspect of mining itself. So then all stations are interacting and working as one unit. That would bring so much value back to the Argo mold. And then it can upstream to the Orion where you have specific stations that will do those things, such as that.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see what they're going to do with the mole in the long run. Because right now it's really in its infancy stage. We've got, with the prospector and the mole being. Did I say Orion? I meant to say mole. They're so similar. One is just like the other, only times 3. The rocks are the same. The gameplay's the same, only times 3 plus a pilot. And so I feel like it's really in its infancy. I don't feel like this is the absolute for the mole. I'm really hoping that they increase either the rock sizes or, something for the mole to have its own purpose outside of what the prospector does.
Yeah, because right now.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Chris. In the future, we should probably have an industrial or a mining episode on Star Citizen, and we would love to have you back for that test.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Oh, that'd be great. I'd enjoy that.
She brings up a good point, because it's like you take the prospector and it's like, okay, well you get to mine X amount of minerals, and then you get to bring it back, and then you get to sell it, and then you bring in 4 people, and then you mine, then you have to split that, and it's really there's no difference in money. You think you'd be able to make more out of doing a haul like that when you split it up, and it's really not. That's not the case. You may actually probably lose money.
You do.
Better to have 4 prospectors.
Yeah.
Again, keep in mind that Tony Z is going to flip this whole thing around where, as far as demand on certain minerals, then the values that you can split, a higher value content split up could help. But what do you all think about
wait. So let's finish off with this SCO episode.
Okay.
My other thoughts was, had any input led to new gameplay? I like that question. The answer was kind of vague, but it was an interesting thought behind it. Like it does sometimes. And also, what place does racing have in the new vehicle experience? I'm looking forward to racing. I gave racing a try, but that was not several, but a few years ago. I haven't done any of the racetrack in recent times. Don't really have a racing ship. I had the Mustang. I think I had the Mustang Gamma. I might have upgraded that. But I do like the idea of racing. I just don't think I'll be doing it maybe once a month, not weekly, if any. What do you guys think?
It's supposed to be a career. Yeah.
I would like to have a place to be able to go and watch.
Mm-hmm.
Racing, a dedicated place for racing. I really enjoy that, and it would be nice if they did that so that you could actually go and not necessarily be a part of it, but just be a spectator and be able to see everything.
Yes.
Oh,
and with the video capabilities as well, Tessa, to project that in your community bar, hanging out, and you're watching on screen too. It's a nice
that would be cool.
I was just told GrimHack has it. I don't go to GrimHack though. I never knew about it. I think GrimHack has something about racing. So evidently, it's already in the game. As far as spectating, that's what the whole Arena Commander racing seems to be about. Because they already have an announcer. All you need is spectators, and that'd be the complete thing. I think they'll probably be working on that, especially for stuff like I can't think of the They have ground racing that is community.
Oh yes, yes.
What's the name of it? Do you remember?
Something or Arrow or something. And the Daymar Rally. Morale.
Thank you. That's it.
Oh, De Morale, yes.
Yeah. So the add spectators to that'd be great.
Yeah, and it's great that you're not limited to ships. That also all the vehicles have a say so as the type of racing that you can get into, and then Star Citizen, the universe itself supports that. And going back to my childhood, I grew up watching Speed Racer, and the aspect of Speed. Who said yes?
Yes, Tessa.
My girl, that's right. Oh my God. It was a rally. It was a official racing. It was the dirty underbelly of racing. And, you know, Speed and Trixie, she was the guide. And I mean, all of that. I know, right? I'm sorry. I have to apologize. Nerd now.
We're not dating ourselves, are we, Kimmy?
Yeah, right. But thank you for that. But we're gonna move on. We're gonna have a talk about Machinima today. It's called Valk, Star Citizen Valkyrie Machinima. I'll put the link in chat. So here we go.
We gotta do Machinima.
Oh, Valkyrie. All right.
When I walked my first patrol, it was the proudest day of my life. And when our mighty winged steeds flew us into battle, my heart soared with elation. I remember listening to the mercs mouth off about how wonderful the Valk was.
You know how wonderful the Valk is, man? It delivers payloads from on high, payloads of overwhelming firepower, like Sergeant Gunny over here. Living, breathing, human torpedoes, man. This ain't no mamby-pamby, feathery, prancy prowler. The Valk is a real ship, a warrior ship. Hoorah!
And boy, oh was he right. We were death from above, like fire-spitting dragons who would swoop down with great fury upon any battlefield, creating widows and orphans wherever we went.
They're flying that ship like a boss. Great day.
Widows and orphans. We're here to make widows and orphans. War is hell, and the Valk is the devil.
In Norse mythology, a Valkyrie is one of the hosts of female warriors who choose those who may die in battle, and those who may live. Widows and orphans.
From the Thor mythology. I love it.
Yeah, that was my first time seeing that. I had never seen that before. I liked it. What did you think? What did you guys think?
Well done.
And I love the sound effects too. That was pretty good.
Loved it.
Oh yeah, the sound was really good. It was a little bit of a country theme to it, so it was really cool to get that in there.
Yeah, not just the music, but the sound effects too. Yeah. You think, Kimmy?
Very well put together. Very well put together. And I said earlier, was this, if this was put out earlier, did the fire, we noticed the fire in this Machinima video, do you think that kind of spurred on Chris to say we got to get this in game?
You never know. It could be, but yeah.
It makes me wonder. But again, as I said in chat, women are so well represented in the game, and
until you
Tessa,
go to buy clothes, then you're just shit out of luck.
There's like two good outfits.
She's right, you know.
There's like 2 good outfits on Microtech. That's about it.
Right.
Oh, that's going to change, Admiral. We know that's going to change drastically. We talked about how once we really get a proper expanse of the verse where you're hailing from one area of or one side of the verse, and you have to, and you're forced to come across from that other side, and people are going to, and if you don't change clothes, for example, people are going to look at you and say, where are you from? You're going to stick out. And you know, and we kind of talked about that with bounty hunting as well. You kind of want to blend in. You don't want to make yourself stand out or stick out where you're walking around with bounty hunting on and you're not from that region.
Well, depends on the bounty hunter or the player in question. Maybe they do want to stick out, make a name for themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think this. Go ahead, Tessa.
I wear pink when we do bunker missions. Nobody mistakes me for the NPCs.
Yeah. You know what? That can be both a blessing and a curse.
Right.
So
but the video was great. Yeah, they did a great job.
Yes, as always.
They showcased the Valkyrie very well. That's one of my favorite ships.
That was a hell of the flying was great. But I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you, Tessa. Thank you, Admiral Kusanagi, for dropping on Discord for us. And remember, anyone else who wants to drop in and say hi and talk to us, you're welcome to do so in future episodes. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, especially our YouTube if you want to catch up on episodes that you missed. You find it previous episodes there. And don't forget to, we have merchandise. We have t-shirts, mugs, and gamepads. Check the link below to help support us. On Sundays, we're doing Aliens in the Verse, or of the Verse, on Star Citizen, Sunday, 8 p.m. UTC had changed because 8 p.m. Eastern. UTC is probably 1 a.m., so that'll be 1 a.m. Monday, Star Citizen UTC. Check us out for that.
Well, thank you guys very much.
Tessa, always a pleasure, and I look forward to your next stream. Admiral, informative as usual. Great having you in.
I try to do something here. Don't want to be a bother, so. And Tessa, I'll catch you.
Yeah, I'll check you out too. So thanks for joining us. Love, peace, and soul.
Where did the time go?
Oh, we're waiting Mating Ariana, so check her out and say hello from
Thanks, darling. We'll catch you next time.
Bye, Tessa.